Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. So, our guest today is an awesome lady. Her name is Amanda Lee. She is going to share a very difficult experience she went through with her kids related to domestic violence. She is super helpful because she's very candid about what happened. She's candid about how she felt about it. She's candid about what her feelings were afterwards and how she's kind of rebuilt a really positive and successful life for herself and her family coming out of that event. Also, an author, so she's written a memoir about her experience, as well as a series of books about a female detective that investigates domestic violence cases. So, super interesting lady. Without further ado, let's bring Amanda on now. So, Amanda, thank you for joining us here on Salty Ginger Talk. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. So, Amanda and I had a great conversation a couple of weeks ago, and she has very interesting background, and she has written some books, and she is an advocate, specifically around domestic issues. And we're going to have a great conversation about all of those things. So, with all of that said, Amanda, I would really like to start. You originally started off in politics. Is
I
that
did.
correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Can
hmm
you talk a little bit about what drove you to that and then some of your experiences in that?
Yeah. The West Wing, the show,
Oh,
was
really? Okay.
was really my driving force. I had, at 18, I had to pick a college major, and I was like, well, I like the West Wing. That sounds fun. I could totally do that. Um, and then I landed on my senior year in college. I landed on now Governor Shapiro's first campaign as state representative. He's the governor of
Hmm.
Pennsylvania. Um, and he hired me as soon as he won. And I was his executive assistant, his right hand for 7 years. And I quickly learned that it was nothing like the West Wing, uh, that you get paid very little and it's a lot of stress and you work all the time, holidays, birthdays, weekends, nights, all the time. And I met a lot of cool, like famous people. My brother is still jealous that I got to shake hands with Christy Brinkley. Um,
The Uptown Girl.
yep. But it was just it wasn't worth the stress, and I wasn't in love with my job. And I didn't really know what to do. I kind of floundered a little bit while I was in that position. Like, all right, well, I have a degree in politics and I'm working for this up and comer in the political party. Maybe I should go to law school. So I studied for LSATs and I was like, it's not really for me. And I was like,
Hmm.
well, I'll just go back and get my master's. What I was going to do in my master's in politics, I have no idea, but it felt like maybe I should just go back to school. And looking back, thankfully, I tanked the GRE, so that wasn't an option. And then I like to say that my sister and my mom, I come from a background where everybody in my family is in education.
Hmm.
My parents met at the elementary school they both taught at. My sister's an assistant principal at a high school in Pennsylvania. So they sat me down and had an intervention and told me that they would pay for an education class at the community college, just give it a shot. And I very reluctantly was like, fine, I'll do it. And I loved it. And then I found my second career in education.
Nice. What role in education let me say that differently. What roles, if there are multiple, have you had in education since you made that transition?
I became a teacher in 2012, sixth grade in Fairfax County, and I still am.
Oh, nice. So
Yeah.
sixth grade, what's that? 11 and 12-year-olds?
Yes, 11 and 12-year-olds. And where I teach in Virginia, they are still in elementary school. So it's the last year of elementary school.
Oh, so you have a class that stays, they don't switch classes?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, they don't switch. They switch for math, but I teach them everything, which
Okay. So
some
you're
years is great. And other years I'm like, we need to switch. I need a break.
somebody tag me out here. Somebody else get in
Yeah,
the ring.
right.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So yeah, well look, for what it's worth, my wife and I raised three boys And you probably get boys right before they lose all their brain cells and they're the dumbest life form on the face
They're
of the
like
earth. They're,
they're like on the cusp. Yeah.
yeah. Yep. You get the monosyllabic grunts as answers. Oh, what? That's not
Hmm.
a word. Could you speak words? Like, could you speak
I get
English when I ask
I
you a
get I
question?
get brah a lot. Brah from my own children and from my students. Brah, what? I'm like, that is not my name. And also, like, are you trying to say bro or bra? Because bra is not a word.
Exactly. I've seen it spelled BRUH. And I'm
Hmm.
like, where did it come from? And how do we send it back?
Oh,
I don't,
I've gotten it texted to me from my 9-year-old daughter. Bra. I'm like, no.
oh my gosh. It's time to talk
Yeah.
boundaries, right? It's time to
Yeah,
talk
right.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's good stuff. What's your favorite part about being a teacher?
My favorite part is when the kids come back and visit me. It's not like actually in the moment teaching. And it's always, I've found in the past 13 years, it's always the kids I least expect. Hold on one second. I'm now getting a software restart requirement on my computer. We'll just ignore that. But it's always the kids that I least expect, the ones that are super quiet, or the ones that I feel like I was constantly on them about their behavior. They're the ones that it like gives me the reason of, okay, this is why I do this, because they are coming back and they're like, you made such a difference in my life. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for you. And that, I mean, it just gives you all the feelings because it's the kids that you don't realize that you are truly making a difference in. And then when they take the time to go back and visit their elementary school teacher, I mean, that's huge. I would never do that.
Mm, yeah, that's got to be rewarding. Is it broken on gender? Do you hear more from males or females, or is it kind of across the board that the kids that kind
It
of come back and check
it's
in?
across the board. Honestly, the boys are the ones that always shock me though, because they're 12-year-old boys and doing stupid stuff in my classroom that I think I'm constantly like up their butts about. And then they're coming back to me as they're college freshmen and they're like, you made such a difference. Like, thank you so much for everything you've done for me. And I'm like, okay. Do you remember when I sent you to the office like 7 times? But okay.
It's funny though, because I think it's what, look, I'm going to sound like a dinosaur here, but it's what I do. I was born without the give a fuck gene, so I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about me. And kids crave structure. They do. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, one of the problems we have in society today is we want to raise these free range children. And,
Mhm.
I want them to think for themselves. That's great, but their prefrontal cortex isn't developed yet. There's a
No, not
reason
till
that
they're
you're the
25.
parent, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
you have to set some boundaries and you have to provide some structure, and they actually appreciate it. Even when they look at you with disdain and roll their eyes and tell you they fucking hate you, they
Yeah.
appreciate it. It's part of the job.
Yeah, my husband and I have this conversation all the time. We had spoken earlier. We have 7 kids combined. He has
Mm,
5, I have 2. And we found across the board that while they might hate us in the moment, but like that's what they're craving. That like they need that boundary set for them. And then it turns out that they actually appreciate it.
yeah, the payoff is far it's far down the road. I can tell you, mine are 30, 27, and 25 now, and they're all good men, good relationships, hold down jobs, productive members of society, all that stuff. But when you're in the heat of the battle, sometimes it feels like, good Lord, is this even like, is any of this registering? Is any of it getting through?
Yeah.
But it does.
I,
It does.
I often have to go, do you hear the words coming out of my mouth? Yeah. Okay,
Oh
repeat what
my
I
gosh,
just said.
hit him with the Chris Tucker, right?
Yeah. I quote the movies all the time.
I do
It's
too.
how I
Yeah,
provide entertainment for myself while I'm parenting.
I love it. I love it. I quote songs and movies all the time. My kids get tired of it, and they make fun of me because I'll be watching a movie and I'll ask them, "Have you ever seen this?" Like, dude, we watched it with you 3 times. Yes, I've seen it. So, but in addition to teaching, you're actually an author as well.
I am. I am. I've
Yeah.
written 5 books.
Yeah, what led you to start writing books? What was it about writing that attracted you?
So nothing, honestly. I hate writing all the
Hmm.
time. And I went through a pretty traumatic event about 6 years ago now. I was in a domestic violence relationship with my ex-husband,
Hmm.
and we had a pretty traumatic event happen on August 3rd, 2019 at 8:59 p.m. He threatened to kill me and my children and burn our
Good
house
Lord.
down. Yeah. And it was really, I mean, scarring for all of us. But as a parent, after the aftermath, I threw myself into making sure my kids were okay, got them into therapy, really focused on them, and didn't take time to focus on myself.
Hmm.
And which I think every parent in any type of traumatic situation does. And I realized after several months that I had some healing to do. And one of my friends suggested, well, maybe you need a creative output. Like you should write down what happened. You should write a book. And I was like, when the hell would I have time to write a book? I had a 5 and 3-year-old at the time. I was working full time and COVID had just hit. I'm like, what are you thinking? And then one night I couldn't sleep, as often happen at that moment. And I started thinking about all the different chapters and what I would title them and what I would write. And I sat down on my computer on a Saturday morning in January of 2020, and it just kind of flowed out of me. And I just continued to write until it was done. And I was going to just set it aside and not do anything with it. And then my other friend was like, read it, and she was like, you really should get this professionally edited, like maybe try and publish it. I was like, okay, like it probably needs to be polished up. Like I'll get it edited so I can give it to my kids one day so they can hear my side of what actually happened. And the editor who did it for me was like, you should really try and get this published. And after someone who I didn't know read it and told me that, I was like, okay, well, maybe, I don't know. And she was like, but if your memoir of what happened helps one person, isn't it worth it? And I was like, yep, you're absolutely right. It 100% is. And through the writing process, I found how not only therapeutic it was, but how much I actually enjoyed it. When I think about writing, I think about writing papers in school, you know, research papers for grad school, and hated every moment of it. I think about I always wanted to be the person who journaled, like those beautiful journals that you see in Barnes and Noble. Like I had stacks of them in my 20s because I always wanted to be that person, and it was never for me.
Hmm.
But what I found through writing my memoir was how much I truly enjoyed writing and what I got out of it. But to think at like, and a lot of authors will say it, that I hate the writing process, but I love it too. And that's so true. Like when I sit down to write a book, I'm like, oh, all right, here we go. But then after I write a chapter one and then chapter two, I'm like, oh my God, I love it. I can't do anything else. Nobody talk to me.
Wow. It's quite the transition from not wanting to do it to you said you've written 5 books.
I have.
Yeah. Going back to this tough incident you went through with your
Mhm.
kids, were there warning signs leading up to it? I'd like to
Oh
talk a
yeah.
little bit about, I'd like to talk a little bit about domestic violence,
Yeah.
just for those that might be in tough situations out there. So if I
Mhm.
ask anything you don't want to talk about, just say, I don't want to talk about that. Zero
Okay.
issues there. But that's why I'm asking
Okay.
these questions. So,
I'm pretty an
um,
open book, so there's really nothing off limits.
we appreciate that. We appreciate that. So were there warning
Um,
signs leading up to
oh
this? Was
yeah,
there, yeah.
hundreds, hundreds. Um, th the thing about domestic violence, if you've never been in a situation like that, you don't understand. It's like, oh, he hit me one day and that was it. It's like, no, it's really like a slow trickle of abuse.
Mm,
And most of the time it starts out as psychological, and it's like poking holes in your self-esteem. Until this becomes your new normal. And I think I had blinders on for several reasons and ignored all the red flags. Part of it was when we started dating, I was in my late 20s. I had been a bridesmaid 11 times. I was ready. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to get married. I wanted it to be my turn.
Mm,
And I think also I thought I could fix him. I tricked myself into saying, like, oh, his anger was great passion.
mm,
And I think, I ignored all the red flags, which people do when you are trying so desperately to make something work. And then right after we got married, we started having kids. So then I was in the bubble of having a toddler and a newborn and just trying to survive while my partner was being abusive. And it wasn't physical all the time, it was mainly verbal and psychological. And it wasn't until it was right when the Me Too movement started to get big and the term gaslighting all of a sudden was everywhere. And I
mm,
was listening to the radio on my way to work, and they were talking about the term gaslighting and what it meant. And I had to pull over because I started to cry. I was like, this is what's happening to me.
mm,
This is 100% what's happening to me. I was married to someone who made me believe that I was worthless, that no one would ever want me, that even if I wanted to divorce him, I would never get custody of my children because I could barely function without him. I couldn't financially stand on my own 2 feet without him. He had convinced me of all of this. And it wasn't an overnight thing. It was a 10-year period we were together that this was constantly being fed to me.
wow. That's I appreciate your candor there, and I appreciate you walking through all those examples. Um, do you think I'm trying to think of the right way to say this because I want to ask if it's intentional, but I don't mean clearly he did it on purpose. But do you think it was he cognitively was doing it to try to control you, or is he just that way? He's just not a good guy. What do you think?
I think it probably stems a lot from low self-esteem on his part, and
Yeah,
it
for
was
sure.
a control mechanism to make sure I didn't leave.
Got it.
Um, I also think he's narcissistic. So, I think it was probably a combination of those two things, would be my guess.
Yeah, that it's I find that super interesting because like we've never met in person, but like I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3", like 220. I look like if you were gonna stereotype me, I look like a wife beating, beer guzzling, knuckle dragging Neanderthal. I'm not any of those things, but I sure look like it. And then I'm loud. I'm aggressive. I was a former athlete. Played through college. Had a chance to play baseball professionally. So that only enhanced all of those characteristics in me. With all of that said, I've been married to my wife for 33 years, and there's a lot of people that look at us and think, "Oh, I wonder what goes on behind closed doors." And I told my wife very early on in our relationship, "Look, if I ever laid a finger on you or laid a finger on one of our kids, you should leave and never come back, no matter what I say." Because
Hmm.
if someone would do it once, they would do it again. I would never
Hmm.
do it. Like I just would never hurt you.
Yeah.
So like you need to keep that in mind. And like I said that very early in our marriage. Um and I just say that to anyone that's listening out there. That's how it should be. That's normal.
Oh, yeah.
Anything other than that is not normal.
Yeah.
Um so you got to keep that in mind. Don't like Amanda just said, don't convince yourself, don't rationalize it, don't excuse it. If it's there, it's there, and you've got problems. You've got to find another path because the one you're on isn't going to work.
Yeah. I mean, if
Um,
something doesn't seem right, it's not.
yeah, right. It's so funny. We do that. We as humans do that all the time. We're so worried about offending someone or hurting their feelings. We'll put ourselves at personal risk.
Hmm.
We'll walk into the elevator when we get the heebie-jeebies from the person that's standing in the elevator because we don't hurt their feelings by not getting on. We won't
Yeah.
cross the street when we see someone walking towards us that gives us the heebie-jeebies because we don't want to offend them. Fuck them.
Hmm.
Take care of yourself, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like that's the mentality you have to have.
Hmm.
It's pretty crazy. So, how did you get out of that situation? So you find yourself, you said your husband threatened to kill you and burn your house down. What happened
Yeah.
then?
So, I mean, it was really like I started to see the effects, specifically in my son, of what he was witnessing at home.
Mm,
And I knew I needed to get out. I didn't know how. Um, I live in Virginia. We're a reunification state. They're very big in having both parents in each other's lives, in the children's lives. And I was really worried about how I was going to protect my children when I wasn't there. Um, and then one night the door opened for me. We were having a fight and he threw water on me, which apparently is considered assault. I learned that. And then he threatened to burn the house down with me and the children in there. And he went as far as went into our garage and got a gas can and a lighter. And
Wow.
I grabbed my kids and we sprinted to my neighbors, who was a police officer, and called 911. He left. The cops came and then they arrested him because I was physically drenched in water. So the state charged him with assault. I did not. And they gave me a protective order that turned into a permanent protective order, which isn't permanent, it was 2 years. And we had to go to a criminal trial. But I knew in that moment, after the cops were involved, after this big thing happened, there was no way. I knew that this was my opportunity. This was what I had been trying to figure out. How am I going to leave this man who is not safe, but also protect my children? Well, now I have
Mm.
a way. Now he is not legally allowed to be around us, and I can protect my kids. And I also knew the minute I picked up the phone and had to tell my parents and my siblings and my best friends since I was 12, there was no way that I could go back.
Yep. Yep. So that was kind of the Rubicon, so to speak. There's only one way now. There's only one
Yeah,
way, which
there's
is
only one way.
forward to a new life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you at this point, um, you've the police have arrested him. Um, you go through the whole legal process. I'm not super interested in talking through that. It is what it is. I'm more interested in what you and the kids did from that point forward. How did you start from there and build the life that you have now? Because looking at you and talking to you now, it's clear you're happy. It's clear you're successful, but that's not where you were at that point in your life. That's what I'm trying. How
Yeah.
did you get from where you were?
I mean, it
What
was
what
hard.
steps? Yeah, right.
It was really hard. There was a lot of just surviving. That whole time frame is kind of a blur. I tried to keep as much normalcy in their lives as possible, with all our different routines that we had with going to school. My son played t-ball at the time. My daughter was in dance, while introducing new things that I thought might help heal them. They went to therapy almost immediately. I, in a weak moment, got talked into getting two cats to help them, which I instantly regretted the minute I had to do a litter box. But now I'm stuck with these cats probably for the next 20 years. One might jump and walk across right now, but yeah, so now I have two cats. Um, but it was really just, I spent a lot of time reassuring them that they were safe. I have a very good friend whose husband's a firefighter, and my son was really worried for a while about daddy coming back and burning the house down and wanted to sleep with a fire extinguisher.
Mm,
So we were able to visit one of the fire stations that my friend's husband worked at, and he took us on a tour. He showed us, we got to ride in a fire truck. He showed us what happens when a call comes through and how he can get to our house, or hey, this is I forget his firefighter friend's name who was at the local fire station. He would come to your house and I have his number and I did a lot of reassuring and reminding them that I protected you in this moment. I'm going to protect you all the time.
yeah.
We called ourselves Team Lee, so that we were always a team. We were always going to be together. And our new normal was scary, but it also, there was peace. We weren't walking on eggshells around somebody. We were able to just kind of have peace for a little bit. And then he gradually was added back into the kids' lives, first with supervised visits, a couple months after the incident. And then COVID hit and everything shut down. And honestly, COVID was a blessing to me because it forced me and my children into our own little bubble, which I felt like we needed at that moment because we were still in the midst of this traumatic aftermath and trying to adjust and needed some more time to just be.
That had to be hard for you when he got reintroduced to your kids. How did you cope with that as a mother?
I was okay because it was supervised visits. Like we
Mm,
had to literally go to the courthouse to a separate building. He was there with several other parents who had the same thing, and there were people in the room that were watching. So I felt comfortable with that. I had a hard time where, like a year later, when he had more custody and had them on his first like overnight weekend. That
mm.
was really, really hard. And we gradually built up to that, but I don't think I slept at all that first time he had them overnight. I was panic stricken.
I bet.
But
Yeah.
But the great thing about kids is that they have no filter and they will tell you everything, even the things you don't want to know, which always makes me worried what they're sharing about me, like in school and stuff. But um, I take comfort in that, especially now, that they'll tell me if something's going on.
Yeah, that's good. And a lot of that's just fostered by them knowing that you care about them and support them, right? I know I can talk to your
Yeah.
mom about anything. And then you're right, kids have zero filter, so they'll say anything
Hmm.
as well. So
Yeah.
how did you move forward in relationships? Because that had to be a hard thing to do after such a terrible experience in your last relationship.
You know, he had beaten me down so much, both physically and mentally, that I didn't think anyone was ever going to want me.
Mm,
So I started dating someone almost 2 months after, and it shouldn't have lasted as long as it did. But it was partly because all of a sudden I had somebody interested in me, and it was like, see, you said no one would want me. Look at
mm.
this. You see this? And unfortunately, he didn't turn out to be that great of a guy. But I came to the realization when I realized what was happening in my relationship, that this was not a me thing, this was a him thing. The way he was treating me wasn't about me, it was about him.
Yeah.
And I just, I never lost sight of the fact that I know what I deserve and what I need, and it's not this. And this isn't actually tied to my self-worth, it's tied to his self-worth. So I mean, dating sucks. It sucked in our 20s. It sucks at 40. I mean, it really does. It hasn't gotten any better, but I mean, I did find my silver lining. I met my husband, I think almost 3 years ago now, and we've been married for almost two.
Wow, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
so you wind up with your where at what point did you write the book? Did you write so you've written more books and we're still talking about
Yeah.
um
I
I,
wrote,
I'm
I'm
one
sorry,
of the
go ahead.
lucky ones. That's right. I'm one of the
Yes.
lucky ones, right? That's the name of
Hmm.
your book, your
Yes.
book
My
about
memoir.
your yeah. Mhm.
Hmm.
So go ahead.
Um, I wrote it January 2020. So it was about 6 months after everything happened. Um, and I sat on it for a while, and then it was published in the fall of 2023. So I wrote it. No, I'm sorry, I didn't write it in 2020. I wrote it in 2021. Um, it took me a little bit to realize that I did have a story to tell and that I could actually write, and it's not like writing papers in college.
Totally. So you've had that experience and then you wind up in a good relationship. You
Mhm.
wind up getting married. Now you've got 7 kids total. That has to be a very different life. How did you adjust to that big of a difference when you married your now husband?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is that I have a partner that's truly a partner. Like
Mm,
I feel like not so much anymore, but in the beginning, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like when I would be like, hey, we have all the kids this weekend, but I have a retirement party to go to. Like, are you okay with me going? And he's like, why are you asking me? He's like, just go. We'll order pizza. I'll teach the little ones how to do keg stands. It'll be great. Don't worry about anything. And I still find myself doing that. Like last night, um, I went to this uh cocktail making thing with my friend, and I'm like, oh, I have this tonight, like, are you okay if I go? And he's like, Amanda, like, when are you gonna stop I don't care, just
Right.
go have fun.
But
And
when you've been conditioned for so long, right? It's
I mean,
tough.
there's so many major life events that I missed because it was the end of the world if I did something, or I would have to bring my kids because I was worried about leaving him home alone with the kids.
Mm.
Um, Now, like, my kids and his, they're always like, so do you have anything to do this weekend? Because my husband's name's Joe as well. When Joe is in charge, it is awesome, according to my son. They get Chick-fil-A. They went to Krispy Kreme when the light was on. Like it's the best time ever,
That's how I
is what
cook
I'm
too, by
told.
the way. When I
Yeah.
cook, I pull out a credit card and say, "What are we ordering?" That's how I cook.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Chick-fil-A and Krispy Kreme is what I heard, and Crumble Cookie. Apparently they went to
Yeah,
Crumble Cookie too. It was, yeah.
I love it. It makes me think. I saw it was a post on some social media platform, but it was very funny. So it shows this guy and his young son, maybe 3, 4 years old, and they're out in the driveway, and there is a stick of butter that's been run over with a tire. And the caption says, Jimmy asked me what would happen if butter was hit by a car, run over by a car. And I said it would flatten. And he said, well, how do you know? And I said, well, let's go find out. So we got a stick of butter, we put it in the driveway, we ran over it with the car. I'm also saying my wife is not home.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my gosh, there were so many of those scenarios when my boys were young that it was like, mom's not at home. It's like when the warden's not at the prison. 'Cause
Yeah, that's apparently that's my nickname when I'm not home. The warden. The warden's gonna be home soon. Everybody clean up. I'm like, you guys.
exactly. And I had a rule when they were young. I said, I'm kind of like the CIA. So whatever we do when it's the four of us, all bets are off, right? We're all guys. If you pass gas or you use a bad word, hey, it's all good when it's just the four of us. But if it happens in the company of your mother, I'm like the CIA. I disavow all knowledge and I am on the CIA's side because she's the meal ticket and you don't mess with the meal ticket. You don't mess with the queen. So
Yeah.
I'm always going to side with the queen. So you guys are on your own if you screw up when she's
Yep, that's pretty
around.
much our house. I mean, honestly, like being a stepmom is a whole different ballpark. And it's kind of like, I feel like it's Tina Fey one time in an interview compared parenting teenagers to having like an office crush. And I feel like that is 100% being a stepmom, especially to teenagers. You're like, so like I was thinking about dinner tonight. I'm not sure if you're hungry or like if you like, but like if you want, like a bunch of us are going to have dinner in the dining room. Like if you want to join, if you could put a shirt on, that'd be great. But like, I mean, whatever, like it's totally fine. It's like this fine line of I love you and I want you to love me. But also please don't put holes in my wall.
Oh my gosh, that's a great analogy. So do your kids still spend time with the ex-spouses? They're still involved, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. My husband's ex-wife is the kids are mainly with her, and then we see them I mean we see them more now because they're driving, and if one drives they can bring the others. But we see them every other weekend. And then my custody, it took us a long time to get here, but it is almost 50-50.
Mm,
So well, I always say, like, I would never speak to my ex-husband again if I had the choice, but I don't have the choice. I have children with him.
yeah.
And for to his credit, he did everything that anyone suggested when things happened. And it took us a long time to get here. But because we both have done the work on our separate parts, we're now actually really great co-parents. And we talk when we need to about the kids. We sit together at basketball games, and the kids can see that. And I think it's a beautiful thing, but we wouldn't be here if neither of us did the work that we needed to do to heal, but also understanding that we're not talking because we want to be talking. We are
Mm.
talking because we have young children, and it's just easier. It is just easier to try and figure out how to co-parent than hating this person's guts for destroying my life.
Sure. So it's one of the things I try to explain to people a lot. And right, wrong, or indifferent, I have always been pretty non-judgmental and I don't hold grudges. Now, there's no judgment in your situation. There was clearly a person that was wrong and a person that
Mhm.
was a victim. Like it's not hard to figure out.
Yeah.
With that said, um, it doesn't do you any good to hold on to it. It's almost the analogy I use is holding a grudge is like drinking poison yourself and expecting your enemy to die. Like
Hmm.
all you're doing is hurting yourself.
Yeah.
And as hard as it is, you got to learn to let that stuff go, learn from it, but you got to compartmentalize it and you got to look forward instead of allowing the stuff that happened in the past to continue to weigh
Mhm.
you down. And that can be really, really difficult to do, but it's important to do, like you talked about. And
Yeah.
so kudos to you for doing that. And
Thank you.
your kids are so much better off for it. And I'm sure that was one of the big motivators for you to get that done.
It was. And, as a teacher, like I see and have been a part of a lot of ugly divorces, and I see the effects that it has on the kids. And I just remember thinking, like, my kids have been through so much already, and I'm already so devastated that this moment in time is part of their story. It will live with them forever. Um, I don't want them to have to experience what some of my students have experienced with just parents not getting along. I mean, I've had parents who couldn't even be in the same room together because the hatred was so strong. And then you see the kid like, I don't know who to sit with because you're on one side and you're on one side. And I never wanted that for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes perfect sense. So, I mean, my parents divorced when I was an adult, so it was a very different dynamic for
Mhm.
me. But they really did not like each other for the last 5 years in particular. They were together, and it was really hard for them to be in the same place.
Yeah.
So I saw, but I was an adult. Like I have very different thoughts on it, and it didn't affect me the way it's going to affect a 7-year-old in any
Right.
way, shape, or
Hmm.
form. But
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about because I saw it firsthand, and there's so much emotion involved for the two people that are in it.
Hmm.
You can understand what's driving it, but it's like when people are in those situations, they can't see the forest for the trees and how damaging it is to them
Yeah.
personally. You're
Yeah.
hurting yourself when you're inflicting this behavior. And I appreciate that you've said a couple of times in our conversation that your ex-husband's actions were a commentary on him and his
Hmm.
mindset, not you and your mindset. And
Hmm.
that's always true, by the way. That's all when someone is lashing out at you, when someone is coming after you. And I mean, Amanda's situation is extreme, clearly,
Yeah.
but even when someone's just picking on you, or there's someone that's making snide comments about you at work or in your social circles or whatever, keep in mind that there's something going on with that person that's not good. It really doesn't have anything to do with you, but they're
Hmm.
redirecting this energy towards you. And you have to keep that in the front of your mind and say, hey, like this sucks. What I usually do in those situations is I actually go to the person and say, hey, look, you clearly have a problem with me. Like, what is it? Let's just talk through it. Maybe it'll make you feel better. Maybe it won't, but at least let's get it out in the open.
Hmm.
I always say I don't do passive aggressive. I just do aggressive.
Well,
Drop the
it's a lot
passive.
like, when you're parenting,
Mhm.
and you have a toddler or, a young child, kid at any age really, and they're flipping out, and you're like, okay, what's going on? Because this
Mm.
isn't you. I mean, the same thing could be said for my ex-husband when he was lashing out. Like it wasn't me. Now, I'm sure there are times that I pissed him off, but not to the degree of the abuse happened. That is on him. That is his characteristic. That has to do with his personality, not anything that I was doing.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's well said by you. And I just want to call it out for the audience just to make sure
Thank you.
they don't miss that fact. I noticed on your website that you can donate to is it a shelter or a hotline for domestic violence?
It's the
How'd
national
you get
hotline.
how'd you get involved with that?
I'm not actually. I just really support it. I wish I was
Oh,
more
okay.
involved with the hotline, but I realized how fortunate I am. I had a great support system when everything happened to me. I had family and friends rally around me. My parents financially supported me for a little bit through like the all of the legal bills that I needed to do and just trying to get myself on my feet as a single mother. But not everybody has that experience. Not everybody has this massive support system that I had. And not every victim is believed, which was eye-opening to me the first day I was in court. And any organization that can help someone get out of an awful situation, like I want to support. I want to throw all my support behind them because it makes a huge difference.
Mm, that's great. That's great that you do that and make it available so that they can see there's a place to go to get help. What
Mhm.
would you recommend? I don't like to use the word advice because I don't think it's appropriate. What would you recommend to someone who finds themselves in an abusive situation? What are steps they can take to at least start to find a path out of that from your perspective?
I mean, the number one thing is it's almost like when you realize what's happening to you, it's almost like you wake up. You wake up from like a coma or a trance. And my number one takeaway always is no one ever regrets leaving. You will never hear anyone regret leaving an abusive situation. And that needs to be the victim's mantra because it's hard. Even with the support system that I had, it's really hard. The first step would be to tell one person that you trust, get just that one support system to help you navigate what to do. And it looks different for every victim. It might be going to a domestic violence shelter, which I think when you hear shelter, you think like you're going to be on a cot. I mean, at least I do. You're going to be on a cot and there's going to be people in there that you're going to give you, as you said, the heebie-jeebies and
Mm,
but they're really not. They're like really nice townhouses most of the time that you go to. Um, and all I can't say every county, but I can say that the counties that I've looked at throughout the United States, there are resources for domestic violence victims. There's a national hotline on their website. They have resources. There are resources out there. There are people that are very passionate like me that want to help victims because they've been through it and you don't want to see anyone go through this, especially if you've gone through it yourself.
got it. Those are great, great words of recommendation. Again, I try to avoid advice. I
Mhm.
don't know why, but I just think that's a loaded word.
Yeah.
Um, is there, um, did you feel embarrassed, that this happened to you, that you didn't see it sooner? Is that an emotion you dealt with when you went through
Oh yeah.
this?
Oh yeah. Embarrassed and shame. Listen, I'm a badass. I am from Philly. I do not take anyone's crap. I am a highly educated woman. Yet I found myself in a 10-year abusive relationship.
Hmm.
And I would have to say most people when they found out were very supportive, but I did get a couple and some podcast interviews of, okay, so why did you stay? Okay, but why did you stay? Okay, but like why did you stay? It's like, well, because I didn't realize it was happening. And it's hard to say that because unless you've been in that situation, you're like, how did you not realize this was happening? How did you
Hmm.
not realize that someone was constantly putting you down? Well, because it's not every day and it's about little things. Like, I think the first thing he put me down about was my driving. And I already knew, like, I'm not the best driver in the entire world, but I'm also not like accident prone and, you take your life in your hands when I get behind the wheel. But had said it enough and critiqued my driving enough that towards the end of our marriage, I was like scared to drive. I didn't want to drive anywhere. Like I drove to work and daycare to pick up my kids, and that was it. Like everything else, he drove. And that's just like an example. It wasn't every day, but it was a slow trickle. And you don't notice it at first. And then it becomes your new normal until, like I said, you wake up, you come out of this trance. But I 100% felt shame. And what I wasn't expecting was other people's reactions to it. Like I remember particularly my mother, because the kids were involved, there was a CPS report. So they interviewed my parents because they were staying with me at the time to help. And my mom was like, I'm so upset she didn't trust me enough to tell me. And I was like, well, this is nothing to do about trusting you. And it has everything to do with that once I realized what was happening, number one, I was scared, but number two, I was embarrassed that I had allowed this person to destroy me this severely.
Mm. So I think I have a great analogy for what you just described. One, so let me take a step back. I really appreciate your candor in this because I think it's so helpful for people that could be in the same situation. I know that's why you do it, and I
Mhm.
appreciate it, but I don't want it to go without saying I really appreciate your
Well, thank
willingness
you.
to talk through this with us and with our audience. So thank you. But my analogy for right, wrong, or indifferent, I am fascinated by plane crashes. So I watch reconstructions and deconstructions of, I've probably watched 1,000 of those things, and I'm fascinated by them. And what almost all of them have in common is it's rare that there's a catastrophic event that leads to a plane crash. I think when most people think about a plane crash, they think about a plane like flying across the sky and then nose diving into the ground immediately.
Yeah.
That almost never happens. Like that almost
Yeah.
never ever happens. What it is are a series of events the best way I heard, but one guy described it like Swiss cheese. So there's a whole bunch of holes in Swiss cheese, and every once in a while, all the holes line up, and you can see all the way through the Swiss cheese. That's how plane crashes happen. Is in any flight, there are one or two things that, if three or four more things happened, could lead to a plane crash. But
Mhm.
you don't think anything of them when this one little thing happens, and then this
Yeah.
other little thing happens, and then pretty soon you're like, I'm gonna fucking crash this plane, and it's too
Yeah.
late to fix it at that point, right? So,
Hmm.
when you were talking, it just reminded me of all those videos that I've watched that talk about there wasn't anything catastrophic. Maybe when I was 8, I'm from Portland, Oregon. I was born and raised in Portland, and there was a plane that crashed about 2 miles from my house. It was a United flight that crashed on the way to the Portland airport. And I was dumping the garbage, and I saw it crashed by a golf course, and I saw the power lines, the sparks from the power lines when it happened. And that flight actually crashed because it ran out of gas. So they came into land, and the landing gear wasn't down, and so they flew by the tower, and they said, "Yeah, your front landing gear is not down." And so they circled the airport trying to figure out how to get the landing gear down. The whole time they're circling, nobody watched the fucking fuel gauge. Nobody. So while they're working on getting the landing gear to go down, they run out of fuel and crash the plane.
Hmm.
And it just reminds me exactly of what you talked about. It's a little thing and another little
Hmm.
thing and another little thing. And pretty soon, like the way you described it, you have this epiphany or this awakening, and you're like, what the hell? How did I let this happen? What's going on?
Hmm. Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And I love that you're willing to talk about that. So like it validates it for other people, and it gives them permission to say, got it. I'm embarrassed, but I got to take action. I got to protect myself. I've got
Yeah.
to protect the people around me.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's such a powerful point. Um, let's pivot to your other books. You've written other
Okay.
books. So you didn't like writing, then you wrote your memoir, and now you've
Yeah.
written 4 other books. Let's talk about
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I have a series now. It follows a female domestic violence detective. It's a fiction series. And it goes into her solving different domestic violence cases.
Wow. So I'm assuming that was inspired by your experience.
It was inspired by my experience, and it was inspired by I didn't have her as my detective at first. It was later on, but um she was the lone female domestic violence detective that I worked with later on in my case. And I just remember thinking how great it is that it's a female right now, and I'm talking to a female. There's just that level of comfortability. And the character was inspired by the fact that I had her as my female detective.
Mm. Did you notice? I don't, did you have any problems with or get? I don't know if rubbed the wrong way is the right way to say it, but the male detectives that worked on your case, were there problems? Did you feel uncomfortable? Did you feel like they didn't take it seriously? Did you experience
Yes,
any of that?
I did. Now,
Really?
I always preface this with I will eternally be grateful for what police officers do on a daily basis, but also the night that they responded at my house. I mean, we call him, I forget what his name is, but he had a man bun. So my neighbor, who is the police officer, we were calling him Man Bun, and he was amazing. He really was. He went above and beyond. And I just assumed that was going to be my experience, and it wasn't. What no one tells you about domestic violence is that the most dangerous time for a domestic violence victim is when you leave, because then your abuser doesn't have any power over you. So I thought that day in August, that was it. Like that was the worst. And I mean, for the most part, it was, but I then experienced stalking. My ex-husband had convinced our neighbor to give him access to their camera so he could watch my coming and going. Um, the only and I don't know what he said to them. I don't know how he did it, but he did. And I called the police several times about it. And I was told there was nothing I could do about it. Um, I remember getting on the phone with a police officer, and he wasn't even willing to come out. He told me that if I really feared for my life, that I should have a safe word that I could call one of my friends or family members, so that if I was in fear, I could just say the safe word in the phone. And I was like, why wouldn't I just call 911? And if you're giving me this advice, don't you think that means you need to come to my house? Like if this is a piece of advice you're giving me, like shouldn't you be here right now? And so I didn't have I didn't have the best experience after my initial experience. I felt like I was constantly arguing to be heard and to be believed. Like, no, really, there is a camera at that house and it's pointed at my driveway. Here are his messages that are happening 30 seconds after I walk in the door. And
Well, and you had a protective order at this point, right?
I did. I did. And I tried the protective order route, and we added that he couldn't um, do surveillance on me. And even with that, he showed up one time. It was the first time we were exchanging the kids, and we did it at a police station. Um, and he showed up with his phone recording on a tripod. And I took a picture of it. He left. I walked right into the police station, and I'm like, it says he's not allowed to surveil me, and this is how he just showed up. And I talked to an intern police officer because the police officer who was there was unwilling to come out and talk to me, and said there was
Un
nothing they could do about it.
Unwilling.
Hmm.
Wow.
But I think just like with every profession, there are some really great ones and there are some not so great ones. And I am so grateful that that night when everything happened, I had Man Bun, because he is one of the really good ones. Um, and unfortunately, the others that I had to deal with were not the really great ones.
Maybe that's the tip. Maybe they'll need to grow their hair long. I love the
Yeah.
nickname man bun. That is awesome, by the way. That is
Thank
so
you.
good. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's so good. Why do you think people don't believe? Well, so it's a it's a difficult subject sometimes because there have been instances, I think they're
Yeah.
rare, but there have been instances when people lie about this stuff to try
Mhm.
to win an argument, make someone look bad, destroy their lives, get revenge, whatever the case may be. I look at it like abortion statistics. So one
Mhm.
of the arguments against abortion, sorry, against banning abortion is, well, what about cases of rape and incest? When you look at the data behind the actual abortions that are performed because of instances of rape and incest, it's less than 0.5% every year for both of those things. So
Mhm.
I don't know that it's germane. It's not a big enough part of the conversation to drive the entire conversation from my perspective, is my whole point. And I
Mhm.
say the same thing about abuse, rape. Yes, some people lie about it. I think they're few and very few and far between. And
Mhm.
it feels to me like it's better to assume they're telling the truth and investigate and then prove it false than dismiss it out of hand. But I've heard so many
Mhm.
stories where it gets dismissed out of hand. Why,
Uh,
what do you think
yeah.
drives that?
I mean, honestly, it never even occurred to me that someone would believe me.
Mm,
Like it never even crossed my mind that someone would not believe what I had just been through. I'm like,
mm,
why would I lie about this? But then I heard the things that he was telling people, and according his narrative is that we had an argument that I instigated, and I overreacted and did more damage to our children by pulling them out of bed and running out of our house. Nothing about threatening to kill us, nothing. I'm like, why would I make that up? I'm
mm,
not a psycho. But, I I don't know why, honestly, why victims aren't believed right away. I know that it was incredibly frustrating to me when I went because we had to have a criminal hearing because the state pressed charges against him and I had to be there. And I was talking to the district attorney and he talked very fast and basically told me because I had not reported this ever, he was going to get off. I'm like, so because I was scared and I never called the police before, he now doesn't even get a slap on the wrist. Like, why? I don't understand. You have a record of what happened, but now because I was scared, well, you need to report it. Okay, well, this is why, like, this is useless. This is essentially a waste of my time to be in court right now because nothing's going to happen. I didn't necessarily want him to go to jail, but a little more than just having to appear. He didn't even have to plead guilty to throwing a water to assault. He pled no contest. So I think in some ways the legal system is set up in the wrong way where it makes victims really have to work to to be believed, to
mm,
get protection. And I understand that, guilty till are innocent until proven guilty. And I understand everybody gets, fair. But I just felt like there was a level of protection for him that was unfair to me as the victim.
mm,
And they tried to reason with me and they were like, well, this way he can pay you child support. I'm like, I do not care about the money. I care about my safety.
right.
How are you going to keep me safe? Well, we're going to give you a protective order. Well, that's great. But at the end of the day, it's just a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So,
Like, what are you going to do? Wave the protector around when he crashes through the door?
yeah, no, I'm sorry. You see this? You've got, it's not bulletproof, but hey, I've got this. So, it's just, I think the system is set up in the wrong way. I really do, especially when it comes to domestic violence.
Yeah, there's several. It seems like there's several instances like that in our justice system where like it's just really difficult. It's one of the reasons I think you don't see a lot of rape cases prosecuted because that almost always turns into a he said, she said, you know? It's like
Yeah.
it's rare that there's witnesses to that. So it's one account versus the other account. I think DNA evidence has gone a long way to prove that. But even then,
Mhm.
if a guy just says, well, she consented, Like, what's the argument against that? If there's no physical marks or physical evidence that there was forced
Yeah.
intercourse, I don't know what the answer is either. Like, look, I'm a huge supporter of cops. I know I sound like I'm anti-cop. I'm not in any way, shape, or form anti-cop. I'm not in any way, shape, or form anti-law and order either. But I also think it's important when you see something wrong with the system to call it out so that we can try to make the system better for the people that
Mhm.
need the system to protect them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and I distinctly remember when so they gave me an emergency protective order that night, which was 48 hours, and then I had to go to court. It happened on a Saturday night. I had to go to court on Monday to get a 2-week extension. And I remember talking to the social worker, and he was like, "Okay, well, when you appear before the judge, act scared. You need to make sure you act scared." And I'm like, "Who's acting? I'm terrified."
check.
Like, yeah, I've never been in court before. The closest courtroom I've ever been is like Law and Order. So, like, I'm not okay, I'll act scared. But, the woman next to me was like, "Okay, okay, I'll act scared. Yes." And I'm like, "Okay, well, maybe this is why the system's set up the way it is because she didn't seem that scared. But who am I to judge?"
Yeah, maybe she's just really composed. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So where do you the series that you're writing or the
Mhm.
book series that you're writing, excuse me. Where do you get the plot ideas? Is it a continuation or do you do a different set of circumstances for each book that the detective
I do
investigates?
I do a different set of circumstances, and it's normally something that I've seen or I've heard about. The latest one that I wrote, it's called Concealment, and it just came out this month, and it has to do with ICE detainment, which is very prevalent right now in the news.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to watch anything without something about immigration and ICE enforcement coming up
Hmm.
on the news. It's a crazy time in our country for sure,
Yeah. Hmm.
which is pretty wild. So, what do your kids think about you being an author? Do they like your books? Do they read your books? Do they not care about your books? They're kids. I
Um,
mean, I get it.
I think they all think it's cool that they're in the acknowledgement part. I've seen them, even the teenagers, like flip to the back to read the acknowledgments where I've written something about them, and then they just kind of put it down.
It's all about me.
Yeah. My 9-year-old daughter really wants to read my books, and I'm like, no, not yet. Someday,
Yeah.
but not yet. Um, but I think she's the one who thinks it's the coolest. She wants to be a teacher and an author someday when she grows up. So,
Oh, that's nice. That's
yeah.
nice. Yeah. Do you ever, is it a goal of yours to be an author full time, or do you want to keep teaching, or what do you think?
I would love to be an author full time. What I found out is that it is hard to be an author full time and help support 7 children.
Yeah, we've had lots of folks on the show that have written books, and literally to a person, they've all said, "You're not going to get rich writing a book." It's a
Yeah,
tough,
not
tough
at all.
business from the way they
It really
describe it.
is. It really is. I really like sometimes sit down and think like I chose my professions like what was wrong with me? I was in politics first and then I became a teacher and now I want to be a writer. I should have gone into finance.
Totally. Did you ever think about running for office, or did you just like being involved in
Oh my God,
politics?
no.
No, not your thing.
No, no. I mean, watching um Josh, my former boss, have to do it, the amount of fundraising and like I don't want to say kissing ass, but like kissing ass that he has to do. I mean, I don't know if he still has to do it at this point as the governor, but I was just like, I don't want to do this. Mm-mm.
It's a dirty,
This,
it's a dirty business, isn't it?
yeah. I'm like, this is not fun. I mean, I didn't want to do it with him. Like we used to go out, what's called canvassing and like knock on doors and shake hands and like introduce him. And I hated it. I mean, he banned me from doing it at a certain point because he said I sucked. And I'm like, thank you. I don't want to be doing this.
Mission mission accomplished. I don't have to do
Seriously.
this.
Sweet. I will see you in the office.
Oh my gosh, that's
So,
hilarious.
oh my God, no, I would never run for office
Oh, I love it. Oh, it's
or
such
work in
good
politics
stuff.
again. No.
Yeah. If you were going to pursue being an author full time, like what would the next steps be? How does it work? I don't know anything about that business. So I'm always curious
I don't
about
know.
stuff.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, writing more, trying to, I guess, get my name out there more, doing more public speaking. Um, but I don't know. It's really tough. I mean, when I was looking for a publisher for my memoir, um, I sent my my manuscript out to, oh my God, like 300 literary agents, and I maybe heard back from 10, and they were all no's. And it's just the rest of them just ghosted me, and it's hard. And then when I did get a publisher, I saw very little money from them because you sign a contract and they take a certain percentage and you're like, oh, that's not bad. But then what you don't realize is like they're also like Amazon's taking a percentage and Barnes and Noble's taking a percentage and and
Mm.
it's like, okay, so I like didn't make anything. Awesome. So, so I'm not quite sure how to be a writer full time, but when I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Totally. Well, like, so we use J.K. Rowling as an example because on the podcast, we talk a lot about you got to take control of your life.
Mhm.
And there's things you have control over, things you don't have control over. You got to stop worrying about and thinking about the things you don't have control over because by definition, you have no control over them. It's wasted time and energy.
Yeah.
But focus on things you do have control over. And we use J.K. Rowling as an example because when she wrote the Harry Potter series, she'd been divorced. She was on government assistance. She wrote them largely in coffee shops and places because they had internet and electricity, and she didn't have those luxuries at home. And then she took the first book around, and she was told no by 12 publishers. Can you
Mhm.
imagine? It's like the producers that didn't sign the Beatles back in the
Yeah,
60s.
right.
So wait a minute. She came to the office and you told her to kick rocks? This Harry Potter books? Really? But like she said she got laughed out of offices a lot. Like it was pretty common in
Hmm.
that industry. It's very much like it feels very much like acting or music or those kinds of things.
Hmm.
Um, do you know much about self-publishing? Is that an option for you?
Yeah, so this last book that I wrote, I self-published, just because I it's very discouraging. Like you pour your heart and soul into a book and
Mm,
then you see nothing. Or you see very little, but you've sold a lot of copies and you're like, well, I don't understand how this is working. So I just start like for the first time self-published. And it was a fairly easy process. So we'll see how that pans out.
got it.
But from what I
Um,
understand, that's more what like the publishing world and books, like that's really where it's headed. Like people aren't um really like wasting their time with big publishing houses anymore. They're just going right to self-publishing because it with the creation of Amazon, it has made it so easy.
Yeah, it's kind of democratized it a little bit. It's
Hmm.
like what we're doing here, right? I mean, it used to be, and look, I'm 53, so you know, I remember a very different world. The one I grew up in was a very different world than the one we're in
Yeah.
now. So like I lived in a house that didn't have a microwave, that didn't have a VCR, blah 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 blah, back when dinosaurs were on the earth. However, one of the things I remember was there was exactly three channels to watch. There was no
Oh
cable.
yeah.
There was none of that
Hmm.
existed, right? So it was ABC, CBS, and NBC, and they controlled the news. They controlled the message. Same
Hmm.
thing like in movies. There was only a couple of why can't I think of the word? What are those places called that make movies?
Movie
Studios. Good
theater.
Lord. Holy cow, I gotta spike my drink or something here. So there's only a couple of studios, right? There's only a couple of record producers, all that stuff. And now things have become so democratized. Like this would have never happened 20 years ago, what we're
Right.
doing here. And
Yeah.
we started our podcast about 9 months ago. And for the first couple months, it was kind of just like yelling into the void. And then we started doing these interviews with people that are so impactful, and we attract such high quality people as well, because you have to be really kind of introspective to be willing to come on and talk about the hard things that happen in your life and what you learn from it, and how you've built a new life with the
Hmm.
lessons you learn from those things.
Hmm.
And so we've recently started seeing, in the last several months, things have really taken off for us. But like it was like banging your head against the wall to begin with.
Yeah.
So that's come on. I tell people just keep doing what you're doing. Take the feedback. If you do
Yeah.
something and nobody reacts to it, try something different, tweak something, try
Mhm.
something a little bit different next time. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very different world now. And I think it's good that all of this information can be out there so people can consume what they want to consume and see what they want to see. So,
But also,
um,
thank God we didn't grow up in the age of social media because
oh my gosh. Yes, I think it's way harder to be a kid
and,
now
and
than it was when we were
tracking,
kids.
I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
totally. Yeah, I think it's way harder to be a kid now than it
Oh
was
yeah.
when I was a kid, for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Same.
because it's not like we were any smarter. We like to think we were smarter, but we weren't. And
No.
there was just nobody watching, so you got away with a lot of stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, thank God.
It's very different. Are your kids on social media? They're still pretty young. Do you allow them to be on social media?
I mean, my personal kids, my 9 and 11-year-old, no, they're not.
Mm.
My 11-year-old just got his first cell phone. Um, and we had a conversation about how he's not allowed to be on social media. Um, but I monitor it the best I can. But I'll tell you what, these little group chats they're all on, that's like a whole nother ballpark. He was on a school group chat and one of the girls changed the group name to P. Diddy's after party. And this is like in sixth grade. I was like, one of the moms like freaked out and like sent a group text. Thank God she did. And I was like, Ethan. And he's like, I didn't do anything. I wasn't a part of it.
How do cell phones work in your classroom? Are you able to confiscate phones or make them stay somewhere away from their
They're
desks, or do you have to
supposed they're
fight that a lot?
supposed to they're supposed to turn it off, but they're 12, so they forget. I have been known to get on people's cell phones with their permission. Like, it normally happens when one of my students is absent and they've decided to spam the group text or FaceTime call, and then they get my face instead of someone else's.
That's awesome.
Or I'll get on the group text and be like, guys, I understand that you are all not in school today. However, the rest of us are. So you need to stop texting.
Yeah, that's such a different environment than like, the stuff just didn't exist back in the day. You got caught passing a note. That was about as much trouble as you could get in the classroom when I was a
Oh, I
kid.
know. Yeah. I was an expert note folder back in the day.
Yeah, I never knew how to do those. Remember those things that you like would move back and forth? Well, I can't remember. Like it was like almost like a clover, and you would
Oh, yeah.
unfold it this way and
Hmm.
fold it this way.
You
I
know,
never figured
you
out
know what
how to
they're
make
called?
those. I don't.
I just found this out. They're called coochies.
Oh, that has a different meaning in my vocabulary.
Same, but when my daughter told me she made a coochie, I went, I'm sorry, what'd you do?
Run that by me again.
She's like, do you want to see it? I'm like, I don't know.
Pretty sure I don't, but I think I have to. Right?
Then she
It's
showed me the
part of.
folding thing, and I was like, okay,
I feel a lot
never
better now.
mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, so one of the things we do on the podcast is, so I ask a lot of questions, blah, 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 but I don't know everything and I don't know all the important stuff either. And so if there's a question I haven't asked or a subject we haven't brought up or something we haven't covered yet, I like to just open the floor up and let you lead the conversation for a while. So is there anything we haven't talked about that you think is important to share with the audience or that you feel strongly about that you want to talk about while you're here?
I don't know. I feel like we've covered almost everything. I can't think off the top of my head of anything that we haven't hit. I feel like we've hit like all the aspects.
No, that's cool. Totally cool. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah,
What I
no, I'm
don't
thinking
want.
there isn't anything that I'm like, oh, I want to say this. I can't think of anything.
Okay, that's really good because one of the like on the pod, I still do sorry, I still do episodes where it's just me covering a subject. Like what,
Mhm.
trying to remember what we released today. Oh, how you gotta let go of the past. You can't live in the past because it's holding you
Mhm.
back. And so we gave people tips on how to do that. But when we have guests on, I really want to try to pull out as much value from the guests for the audience as possible because the people that come on have such interesting stories and they're so I'm always so impressed with people like you that are willing to talk public. It's just very brave of you to talk
Thank you.
publicly about really difficult things and have candid conversations. And I'm just so grateful that people are willing to do it. I don't want to waste it. Like I
Yeah.
just, that's why I kind
Thank
of
you. I
open it
appreciate
up and
it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So kudos to you. I'm just really happy that you're in a better spot. And like, I know you've worked your ass off to get to a better
I
spot.
have. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm really happy that things are going so well for you. So,
Thank
um,
you.
yeah, really appreciate having you on, Amanda. It's been great. You did a great job. And again,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for being willing to share all this with our
Yeah.
audience. Best of luck to you. And if there's ever
Thank you.
anything else that you want to talk about, shoot us a note. We'd love to have you back on if
Yeah,
there's something you
absolutely.
want to
I
talk
would love
about.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll email you the headshot and the links to my books.
Awesome. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot that, guys. We'll include all that in the show notes so you don't have to go searching for Amanda. By the way, her author name A.E. Lee. So, but don't, you don't have to worry about it. It's in the show notes. So you can just go right down there. We'll have links to all of her books and a link to her website so you can get in touch with her. And even if you've got questions about your sixth grade homework, I bet you she'd help you with it if you needed to reach out to her. So
I'm really good at sixth grade math.
I bet you are. I bet you are. So thanks again, Amanda. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay, guys, like we said at the opening, Amanda was so candid and just really, really appreciate her willingness to come on and share her story with you guys. And, if you're out there and you're experiencing any of the things that Amanda talked about, there are places that you can go to get help. If you look at our website, there's you can both donate and find the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So if you need help with that, that's going to be there as well. And just really appreciate her doing the podcast with us today. So such a great personality, so well spoken, and so willing to share her experiences to try to help other people that might be in those same situations. So thank you again, Amanda. You did an awesome job. And if you ever want to come back on, just reach out because we'd have you back on in a heartbeat. So, guys, don't forget, head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. James puts it up right over there every day. All of our podcast episodes are available there. Links to all our social media accounts are there. We publish a newsletter every weekday that you can subscribe to on our website as well. And if you can, please like, share, comment, subscribe to the podcast. Super helpful for us if you're able to do that. We're going to keep finding awesome people like Amanda. You look at our guests, and they just are all awesome people. They all have so much wisdom and life experience to share with us. You don't want to miss the next one. So make sure you don't miss the next episode of Salty Ginger Talk, and we will see you there.